Welcome, everybody, to Wood with Handles, baseball podcast for fans, by fans. This is episode 6 for the week of May 20th. I'm Ryan.
I'm Josh, and Carl's not with us today. Today we'll talk about Anthony Rizzo's contract, Chris Sale's near-perfect game, Don Mattingly and other managers who are struggling, and MLB's plans to open the MLB season overseas.
The first topic we'd like to cover this week is the Houston Astros president, George Passalos, stepped down, and Reid Ryan has now stepped in to fill the presidency for the Astros. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I think it's a good decision. I don't know a whole lot about Reid. The little bit that I've done research on the past few days is he and his father, Nolan Ryan, president of the Rangers, have they kind of own some minor league teams who are both Astros and Rangers affiliates. I do think it's weird that while his father is over running the Rangers, he's kind of going to take over the Astros. It's kind of funny, though, because you can see it foreshadowed. A couple weeks ago, Nolan Ryan, when asked if he was going to take over the position, when people kind of foreseen this coming, Nolan said, I think they'll find the right person for the job. I don't know if that was him knowing what was going to happen, but I think he kind of foreseen it coming. But no, overall, I definitely think Reid, the little bit that I do know, I know very, very little, but the little bit I do know seems like the right guy. People in Houston seem happy. The MLB crowd overall seems like to think that this is going to be a good idea.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page as you. I mean, Reid Ryan, if he's anything like Nolan was, I mean, look what Nolan's done with the Rangers and kind of turning that team around, things like that. I think he's going to be the right guy for the job. Like you said, I don't know a whole lot about him, but just his last name is Ryan. You know, Nolan Ryan, his dad, obviously coming from the organization when he was younger, when he first started off in the majors. I think it's going to be a good fit. I think Passalos may have been, I guess, for lack of a better word, a fall guy. He was probably gone by the end of the season or else in the middle of the season anyways. But I think definitely a change needed to be made, and Reid Ryan is probably the right guy to just kind of come in and, you know, be the new face of the organization, you know, and start moving things in the right way, because everybody knows the Astros sure could use it right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more shocked that Nolan didn't take over. Obviously, prior to the season, and we never really had a chance to talk about it because it happened prior to us ever even starting this podcast, but there was a lot of controversy at the beginning of the season about where Nolan Ryan was going to go. I mean, he was kind of almost, in the media's eyes, fired for a second there, and then he wasn't, and then he was, and he wouldn't talk to anybody, and then he was given, like, a new job where, like, I don't know, it was really weird. It just seems like things aren't really going smooth in his world in Texas. Obviously, the Rangers are doing very well, but in his job world in Texas, it doesn't seem like things are going too smooth, and I thought, like, given the shot to go to the team where he arguably had the bulk of his success in his career, obviously he did do good things for the Rangers, but, I mean, I at least know Nolan Ryan as an Astro, and I just thought given that chance he would go back, and he, when asked, really didn't seem interested at all.
Yeah, whether it was Nolan or Reid, I just think, you know, having the Ryan name in the organization now, it's going to be big things for the Astros, and hopefully it moves them forward a little bit, because they're struggling as a team, they're struggling as an organization, and they're going to struggle for a long time. But, you know, let's kind of hope that he can kind of revitalize the organization and move it forward and just be a positive, you know, kind of a positive influence for that team.
Absolutely. I think this is, like I said, from the little bit we know, he seems like a great fit. I think everything's going to go in the right direction. I don't really see a downside. I mean, really, shit can't get much worse than it already is in Houston, but I don't really see a downside.
Yeah, you kind of almost hope he's the next almost Theo Epstein, but we'll see. Only time will tell with that.
No one is Theo Epstein.
Yeah, no one, right?
Speaking of Theo, let's go to Theo's Cubs. They just recently signed Anthony Rizzo to a $41 million 7-year contract with a lot of bonus incentives on it. But the media's view on this is the Cubs got a pretty good deal. And, I mean, overall, this is kind of the new face of their franchise outside of Starlin Castro. And I don't know. I think it's a good deal overall. I think anybody at his age and his experience in the league would be stupid to turn down $41 million. Sure, it's not the big name A-Rod contracts and whatnot. The Cubs do have a lot of money just sitting around, but he's kind of who they're going for as the face of their franchise. And I think it's a fair amount of money for that, for kind of what they're expecting out of him. And I mean, there's a good amount of incentives and bonuses in there too.
Yeah, the thing with Anthony Rizzo is he might be the household name in Chicago. While I kind of think it's Samardzija. People around Chicago may be affiliating the Cubs with Rizzo, but at the same time, I mean, 7 years, $41 million is kind of, it's a small amount of money for what people are getting paid these days, especially for a big name first baseman. And while he may not be the big name, he's definitely going to be the guy that the Cubs are going to look to be the face of the organization for a long time right now. I mean, I'm not in Chicago, so I don't have, the whole Chicago perspective on it, but just knowing Theo Epstein and his track record, he probably knew what he was doing. I think this sets him up well in the long run. So in the offseason, they can kind of, set themselves up to bring somebody big in or some big names in, because they're playing well this year and everybody didn't think they were going to play as well as they are. Granted, they're not, playing great, but they're playing a little bit better than I would have thought they would. So hopefully this positions them well in a couple months to either bring in some big name free agents or, once the season's over, to kind of set them up to just, fill out a roster and be good for the next couple seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I am in Chicago and I'm about less than 10 blocks away from Wrigley Field, and I mean, he is the face of their franchise. I mean, they're putting a lot on him, and Cubs fans really do see him. I think Samardzija, obviously, today is probably the face of the franchise, but talking long term, he is the face of the franchise. I am not a Cubs fan. I frankly can't stand the Cubs, but I am a big Theo Epstein fan, and like you said, I don't think Theo would make the wrong choice. Obviously, he knows what he's doing. I
think at this point you have to trust what he did.
Yeah, I don't really question anything that he does at this point. I mean, Theo is, in my opinion, and I'm sure you agree, and most people probably would agree, the smartest man in baseball. And I don't disagree with the decision. I mean, I think the Cubs did get a good deal, but I mean, nowadays I see a lot of teams are taking kind of big payrolls out on these younger players, and it doesn't always work out for them. So I think they're playing it safe for themselves and in a smart way. I mean, obviously there's a lot of incentives in there, so if he does good, he's still going to get his money. I mean, he's not going to get screwed over. I mean, I don't see it as a bad deal. I think the Cubs got a good deal out of it, but I also think that wasn't a bad deal for Rizzo.
No, I think Rizzo definitely took the high road on it. Like I said, I'm kind of an outsider. I have an outsider's perspective on it, but just reading up on it, I mean, he took the high road on it. He said he was happy with it. It's kind of a weight off his shoulders for the next few years. It's one of those things where you have to trust in Epstein. He's going to do good things. And I just think in the long run, it was best for the organization to give him less money to set themselves up for, later in the year and the years to come. So now they have some space room in the cap where they can, or not the cap, but they have some space room or some space to where they can come in and set themselves up to bring in some more people, when the season's over or possibly during the season.
Absolutely. Moving from the north side of the city to the south side of Chicago, Chris Sale, I'm not sure which day it was now, but about a week ago now.
May 12th.
May 12th.
Sunday, May 12th, so it was almost a week ago.
Yes. 6 days ago, pitched nearly a perfect game. Mike Trout got a hit off of him, but it was...
Yeah, how did you feel about that? Your White Sox, and then Trout, your guy, comes in and breaks a perfect game up?
I mean, I like Trout.
A little inner conflict?
Yeah. I mean, I'm clearly, I mean, if anybody does listen to this podcast or really just even knows me, I'm a big Mike Trout fan. I think Mike Trout makes baseball fun to watch. Not that baseball isn't already fun to watch, and I wouldn't already be obsessed with it, but Mike Trout is, I mean, he's the LeBron James in my eyes of baseball. I mean, he's fun to watch, and he makes it enjoyable for me. So, I mean, it was kind of a bummer. I mean, it's one of those things where it's not just Chris Sale or it's not just the White Sox. I mean, perfect games are fun. Any team that does it. Yankees do it. Cubs do it. I mean, two teams I openly do not like. But even if they do it, it's amazing to see. I mean, these are once in a lifetime. I mean, since I've been in Chicago here, I've seen two White Sox players do it. But, I mean, these are not a common thing. It's not something you see very often. And, I mean, it is very magical to see. So, kind of watching it was a little bit of a bummer that he gave it up to Trout. But even Sale said in the post game, he said, if there was anybody that you're going to give up a perfect game to, you can't be mad about giving it to Mike Trout. I mean,
no, I agree. I'm not a White Sox fan by any stretch of the imagination. I'm definitely not an A's fan, but I took a little delight in seeing them throw a perfect game into the sixth inning. I mean, yes, Trout broke it up, and it couldn't happen to a better guy. Trout's a hell of a player. Obviously, I was rooting for Sale to come through and do this, and he dominated the game. And I mean, really from the first inning, from what it looked like, the Angels really had no choice. I mean, Sale just had his full arsenal that day. He stepped in there ready to go, and it had that feel to it. And then once Trout came up and kind of broke it up, I mean, yeah, he lost the perfect game, but at the end of the day, he threw a one-hitter, got the shutout, and I think anybody would tell you probably the win is more important right now at this point than the perfect game was.
Oh yeah, I mean, we got a lot of positives out of it. I mean, as a White Sox fan, like I said, I've seen 2 perfect games now, Burley's, and I believe that would have been 2010, and then Umber's last year. And I mean, they're amazing to watch, and the game had that feeling from the get-go. I mean, almost at first inning. Obviously, you can't tell something that early in the game, but it had that feeling. He was
you can tell when a guy's got his stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he was throwing his dominant stuff. It was amazing to watch, and I mean, I've even heard it, like, listen to the Baseball Tonight podcast. Buster Olney said that he's seen himself 2 perfect games, and it had that feeling. Like he was in the zone, and I mean, it was kind of there, and I mean, but it ended. We got the win, which is a good thing. I mean, we had been in a slump a few days there, and now that turned us into a 4-game, 5-game winning streak.
That winning streak. I mean, they'd won 5 until today?
Yeah, they lost today, but they had won 5, including Sale's win last night where he shut out the A's again. I mean, it was a good thing. He also saved the bullpen. He's pitched a full game, only his second full game in his career. Obviously, Sale's a young pitcher, but it's only the second time he's ever pitched a full game. So that saved our bullpen for a day. I mean, it's just little things like that end up. It really helps in the long run, obviously, and it sparked, like you said, a 5-game winning streak. So it was really nice to see. Can't be mad that Trout broke it up. I mean, it would. I even as a big Mike Trout fan that I am, I would have been bummed if he would have, like, jacked a home run off of him. That would have been a bummer. But I mean, you can't be mad that Trout hit a run off of him. I mean,
no, and it was a sharp single. I saw it. It was a sharp single, but you're just glad that it was an actual legit hit instead of just a little blooper that just happened to bounce in or something like that. So, I guess looking on the flip side of it, it might have done Mike Trout a little bit of good too, because he's been on an absolute tear since then. So I mean, maybe that's something he needed to kind of get him going. And when Trout gets going, the Angels play better when he plays well.
Yeah, Trout's been doing great. They won today. Even the Sox beat them 2 days before, but both days before. But even in those games, Trout played well. The rest of the team's been struggling. But I think Trout's been playing very well. I mean, he started off to a rough start this season. He hasn't really been hitting the home runs that we're used to him hitting. But overall, like, he's been hitting, and that's the big thing. Like, that's where I think my White Sox struggle right now is we're hitting a lot of home runs. Rios has, I think, like, the 3rd most home runs in all of baseball right now. Dunn's right up there. Dunn's
got 11.
Yeah, he's not far behind. I mean, we're hitting a lot of home runs, but we're not just hitting the ball. We're not batting people in. And that's something that the Angels are struggling with also. Trout's doing good, and he's hitting the ball, but nobody else on the team is. Yeah, obviously, Josh Hamilton's struggling, but Pujols is doing good. Actually, he's doing really good right now. But you can't have 2 good players on your team and expect to win.
I don't, we've beaten this subject to death, it seems like almost week after week after week. Trout's obviously, he's come alive. He's got 12 homers now. I didn't see Pujols' line from today, but as of yesterday, he was 5 for his last 12. So he's hitting almost 500 for, the last few games. But, I'd have to say if the jury was still out for me on the Angels, I think the door is slow, or not slowly, but it's starting to shut more rapidly because they're not winning games. They're not really doing a whole lot well. So like I said, most people give it to Memorial Day, and right now, if I had to choose, I'm done with the Angels.
I mean, we talked about it last week, and I don't want to get a whole lot into it because I could talk for it forever. I'm a big Angels fan, even though I am a White Sox fan. Like, I am a big Angels fan, more so a Mike Trout fan, but I like the Angels. I like Mike Scioscia. I I really want to say they're going to pull it together, but I think management-wise, not management as in Mike Scioscia, but in upper management, I think they just made some poor decisions. I think the Josh Hamilton deal was a stupid fucking deal. I said it before the season started, so I'm not like I'm harping on him because he's doing bad.
No, I know. You did.
I said before they even did it, it was a stupid deal. I don't know. I want to say that they're going to pull it together. I'm going to stick with them at least till the All-Star game because I don't think it's fair to just abandon all hope on them at this point. But, I mean, they're struggling. I mean, they're playing like shit with the exception of Pujols and Trout. And Pujols has plantar fasciitis on his, I believe it's his right foot.
And he plays with it every day.
Yeah,
every damn day.
He plays with it every day, which, bravo. I mean, good for you.
And that awesome. Is not comfortable.
No, that's awesome. But, I mean, the man's running like a senior citizen. I mean, he can't even sprint. Every run to a base is a jog at most.
I think what you're going to see, and like you said, I don't want to get too much into this because we could cover this all day. But if things don't turn around quickly, I think they're going to probably put him on the DL and probably rest him for the rest of the season. Who knows?
He needs to be on the DL, but they don't really have
another
place for it. Yeah, I mean, not only do they not have a first baseman, half their pitching staff's on the DL. I mean, they're struggling right now, but I mean, obviously this is a team we do want to talk about with our next topic, but Don Mattingly and the Dodgers across town in LA are struggling a lot too, and
they're in last place in that division. Who would have saw that coming?
No one really saw that coming. Kind of where do you see all pitchers in baseball, or not pitchers, but managers in baseball going? I mean, I think Don Mattingly is going to lose his job. I think Mike Scioscia probably is going to lose his job, and I really like Mike Scioscia, and it's a shame that it's going to happen. But, I mean, where do you see, I guess, the rest of the pitchers, or even these two that we just talked about?
Yeah, I think you kind of took the words out of my mouth right now. I was going to say Mattingly's job is he's definitely on the hot seat. I mean, hopefully these guys Greinke back, and once they start getting healthy, maybe they'll turn it around. But I think if you don't see some significant improvement, he'll be gone. And then, like you said, the other one that, you know, it's sad to see it happen, but if it does, then it's Mike Scioscia. I mean, he's going to be the fall guy for the organization, and, you know, he's had a good run there, but, you know, like everybody says, if it's not working out, maybe he just outstay his welcome. You know, it just might be one of those things where he's got to go, get some new faces in there, some new blood, and maybe that'll turn it around. But those are probably the two most notable I see now.
What about old Mr. Porter down in Houston?
To be honest, I think you got to give him another year. You bring him in, first-time coach, and with that roster, you just don't expect much to happen. But I think he's there for another year regardless. They just got rid of their president, like we just discussed. Reid Ryan's in, but I think Bo Porter gets another year.
All right. I mean, yeah, I think obviously the two big ones are the two guys in LA. I mean, those are two teams who went the Yankees route and spent a lot of money, and it's not working at all for them. I mean, not even by a far shot. Like, they are underperforming to an extreme. Sure, they don't have the worst records in baseball, any of that stuff, but I mean, for the money they spent, they're doing terrible.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, they're no Miami, they're no Houston, but I mean, they don't need to have those records to be playing bad. When you spend that kind of money, you're playing like shit, and I mean, something's got to change.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there was one other team that before the season, Vegas had them as the number one favorite. I think. What do you think about the Blue Jays and John Gibbons?
I thought you were going to go with Blue Jays. I obviously released my predictions prior to the season. I never had the Blue Jays going very far, anyways.
Yeah,
I had them in fourth place, only above the Yankees, which clearly was wrong. But I had them in fourth place.
I mean, they're 10 games back from the Yankees right now. They're well under 500. Well under 500.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not that shocked by it. I think a lot of people are, but me, myself, I am not shocked by it. They did a shitty version of what both LA teams did, or the Yankees version of buying a team, but they bought a bunch of hacks. I mean, they bought R.A. Dickey, which R.A. Dickey had one good season.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. Yeah,
I never expected the Blue Jays to do much at all. I'm not that shocked by it. Just overall, I can't say anything because I'm not that shocked by it.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think one of those three is going to be gone. I think most likely it's probably going to be Gibbons from the Blue Jays. And if, he's not, I think if the Angels don't turn around, Scioscia's definitely going to be gone. And then, the Marlins, they always have a revolving door, so it could be, Mike Redmond tomorrow. You just never know. But I think the most notable ones you have to look at are probably Gibbons, and then Scioscia, and maybe Mattingly. But
I'm a big fan of Scioscia. I like the way he manages.
Oh, I do too. I love the guy. I think he's a hell of a manager.
I think he's been put into a shitty situation because you can't bench Hamilton. When you put that kind of money into Josh Hamilton, you can't put him on the bench. You can't force Albert Pujols onto the bench. And I think as much as Albert's actually playing very well for being injured, he's injured. He's playing injured.
Yeah.
And obviously there's nothing you can do about it, and a lot of teams are going through it right now, but they have a lot of injured pitchers. I think there's a lot that's out of his control, but plain and simple, you're not winning games. And when your management decides that that's the kind of management they're going to play, the Yankees route, and I'm sorry that I call it the Yankees route, but the buy your team route, you are expected to win.
It's not working out for a couple teams right now, is it?
Yeah, you're expected to win now. It's not like the Cubs where, okay, we'll be good in 3 years.
Right.
You are expected to win today, not tomorrow, not next year. You are expected to be blowing people out of the water this year.
I don't want to keep harping on the Homer subject, but I guess here in Detroit, my feelings are, and I don't think he's going to lose his job, but if for some reason the Tigers don't make the playoffs, I think Jim Leyland has to be gone. He's only on a year-to-year contract, and I know people love him. People hate him during the regular season, but then they pick it up. They make the playoffs. They make the World Series, and it seems like all is forgiven. He just got a contract extension. But I think if for some reason the Tigers don't make the playoffs, especially in such a shitty division that they play in, then I think they got to make a move with Leyland. That's my personal opinion. I'm sure I'm probably going to get blasted for it, and people will disagree with me. But I think they got to make a move with Leyland. I can't stand the guy.
Bring Scioscia to Detroit.
Yeah, that won't happen.
Yeah, that'd be great for him.
I wish it would, but I don't think that's going to happen. I guess with the Angels, we just, like I said, we keep beating it to death. But not to make an NBA reference here, you kind of hope they're taking the Miami Heat reference or route to where they just need some time to gel and get people healthy and just play together. Maybe next year they'll figure it all out, figure what roles they want to take with each other, and then they'll be okay.
Yeah. We're going to kind of leave this topic because, again, we could talk about the Angels. This could turn into an Angels podcast. I know every week we talk about the Angels. Really, we talk about the Angels and the Nationals a lot on this podcast.
Well, if they wouldn't suck so much all the time, we wouldn't have to talk about them.
Exactly.
We've been talking a lot about teams that have been struggling hitting-wise, so today we'd like to bring on our guest, Kevin Wilson, who is the hitting coach for USA Baseball 18 and under. Hey, Kevin, welcome to the show. I guess before we get started, can you just go ahead and give us a quick introduction to who you are and what you do?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you guys for having me, and I'm always down for talking some hitting. So this is just a great opportunity to talk with you guys today. And a little bit about what I do. I'm very fortunate in what I do. I'm a hitting coach by title, I guess, but I can be an ego booster, a mental, shrink counselor to anything that hitters need, I think. And, I'm a private hitting coach for guys in the big leagues, minor leagues, college, and some of the top high school guys around the country. I'm also part of the staff of the 18U national team for Team USA. Just trying to stay away from a real job, really.
Awesome. You did mention that you work with some big league players in the past or even currently. If you can give us some names of some people that you've worked with.
Sure. First of all, I'm very sensitive kind of to what, some of the guys as far as, because I'm a kind of like the poor man's Butch Harmon, I guess you can say, and of golf, if anybody listening is familiar with golf, but the swing coach. So I'm working closely with a lot of hitters. I do try not to step on anybody's toes. I'm very respectful of the coaches that are there because I do work with some guys that during the season as well as off season. So, some of the guys that I currently work with, I keep keep to myself a little bit I don't want to tick anybody off because some organizations can be a little bit wary of it. But in the past, I've worked with some guys like Pedro Feliz and Mike Lamb and guys like that have since retired now, but have used me to kind of lean on and ask some questions. And honestly, guys, just be another set of eyes, because at the big league level, there's not much I can teach these guys other than I'm just another set of eyes. What they ask me a lot, what do you see? Let me know what you see, or can you watch for this? Can you look out for this? Because I'm not feeling something, or what's going on mechanically, or can you just watch my at bats? So that's kind of how I deal with those guys, for sure.
Great. Kind of, what does it take to get to that level? I mean, what separates someone who kind of is that high school player, or maybe single A baseball player? How do they get to the big level, the show?
Well, I think there's a lot of luck involved, to be honest with you guys. You get to a certain level and everybody can play. I mean, there's only a certain number of roster spots. There's only 30 teams, and there's only 25 spots per team. So you look at it from a standpoint of a number situation. And when you get to that level, there's a lot of guys in AAA and even a few in AA, for that matter, that could be in the big leagues right now, but just because of numbers, they're not there. So I think there's there's hard work involved. There's smart work, working smartly and making sure that that you're not wasting your time and you get to that level, I think. But once you get to the big leagues and you get that chance and they allow you to stay up there, so to speak, it's the mental side. That's what separates the guys, I think, in my mind, is the guys that get to that certain point where physically they got it all together. But mentally, do they have it together mentally? Do they understand the game? Do they understand the game within the game? I think is also something that is not seen by the casual fan. So, when you're sitting down with big league hitters, in this case, they don't talk a lot of mechanics. They're doing a lot of they're talking hitting, as I say. They're talking about the game and pitch tendencies and what guys are throwing them in certain counts and that kind of stuff. So in my mind, it's the mental side that really separates them.
Yeah, I was actually just going to ask you that question. It's kind of funny you said that. I was going to ask you, I mean, you said that once you get up to that level, everybody's kind of, everybody's there for a reason. They're all good ball players. They can hit. And I was going to ask you, what is it that separates the great hitters from the good hitters? Is there something is it mental? Is it something that they do mechanically? I guess, what is it that can get that player to the next level hitting-wise?
Yeah, it's between the years, really, because I'll give you an example. There's guys that they'll go on hitting streaks, right? They'll be basically on fire and they can't get out, and no matter what you throw them, it's a pitching coach's nightmare, so to speak. And those guys are just zoned in. But what happens when they're not zoned in? And, we're all human. We can't be on fire for 162 games. We can't be on fire for an average of 600 ABs a year that a major league player goes through, plays every day. So how you handle the successes and the failures. I always have a thing that I tell my guys to say, you're never as good as you think you are, and you're also never as bad as you think you are. I think it keeps everybody having some sort of perspective and understanding of, what, I'm on a hot streak right now, but you know what, there's a reason I'm doing it, because I'm sticking to my routine. Hey, I'm swinging at good pitches. Obviously my swing feels good, but hey, I'm controlling the plate a little bit better, controlling the strike zone. And then when you're not going good, it's like, you can go right back to it. Okay, am I controlling the strike zone? And mechanically, am I good? Yeah. Am I swinging at good pitches? And probably the answer to that is no when you're going bad. So it's having that perspective mentally to understand that when you're going good, you're not that good. When you're going bad, you're not that bad, and you're closer than you think to breaking out of it.
Awesome. We've had some of our followers ask us questions online to pass on to you. And one thing they want to know, in your experience, what does it take for someone to be successful at the level you're currently getting ready to coach at the 18U Team USA level?
It's a different dynamic, to be honest with you. I've been involved the last 2 years, so I've gotten a crash course on kind of what international baseball is about. and it's quite different from the game that we play here in the States. And there's a lot of fundamentally sound players across the world. I think that's number one. There's a lot of kids in the States here that have a skill set. They can hit, run, throw, throw hard if they're a pitcher. Hitters, they can hit the ball a mile but what happens between the lines? Do they know how to bunt? Do they know how to take first to third? Are they good with, being able to field multiple positions, not just one? There's a lot of hybrids that goes along to making a roster for Team USA and to play internationally, because you have to have a lot of two-way players, guys that can pitch, guys that can play a position. There's not 100% two-way players, but there also is a lot of those guys that can play two positions. And lastly, again, going back to the mental side, I mean, we're going to Taichung, Taiwan this year, and for those of you who haven't been to a foreign country, it's definitely not the United States, depending on where you go. And there's a lot of different things. I mean, you might be sleeping on the floor of a hotel room. You might have, you might not be getting the home cooked meal that mom and dad are giving you. So there's a lot of obstacles that you go through for a 17, 18-year-old player going internationally to play too. So, we're looking for a lot of guys with mental makeup that can handle adversity, that's not going to complain if they don't get the amenities that you get here in the United States. So you are dealing with a lot of that. So that the guys that you take over, they better be prepared to when they face adversity, that they can handle it. So that's kind of what you're looking for those guys.
Yeah, you mentioned obviously going overseas and playing. It's a different kind of ball. It's kind of hard for all of us as Americans to say this, but what country has the best ball club?
I mean, I would have to say Cuba. In my short time with USA, from what I've heard and whatnot, they haven't been in the last 2 years. We've won gold medal the last 2 years, but other than that, the Asian teams are very good as well. They have they play a lot of that small ball, they hit and run. They're just completely fundamentally sound. So those are tough countries as well to face. But if Cuba's in it, you're up for a good fight.
You just said that, it's hard for kids to adjust, playing maybe overseas, whether it's just, being away from home, eating the food, kind of the dialect, things like that. Physically on the players, is it a lot different makeup that they would have a problem with playing against any kind of other team from another country? I mean, other teams, they focus completely on stuff. They focus on different fundamentals of the game. Is it hard for your kids to just get used to actually playing the game against these guys?
I think, honestly, the game is pretty much the same outside of a couple different things. And that's stuff that we can clean up pretty quickly once we get over there. But for again, it gets them prepared for minor league ball, because most of these kids are going to be top round draft picks the following year. And, I can tell you from experience, it's no fun sitting on a bus for 15 hours going from town to town in the minor leagues. You're spending 2 days on a plane just to go overseas to play, and you're learning how to adjust on the fly. And I think it's not so much the style of play as it is just the culture and the way that things are being done. It's not, sleep in your bed till noon, get up and play at 7. It's literally you're on the run from the moment you land until the moment that you fly back. And so, again, going back to the adversity thing, how these kids handle adversity. We want guys that are mentally tough, and we have the Navy SEALs. We run them through a Navy SEALs workout out in San Diego before we go over too, just as a little prep. And it gives us as a staff a chance to kind of see who's going to be able to go through that or not go through that. So how to handle that adversity. So it really is about just handling the culture, so to speak, not so much the game.
Every now and then hitters go through a slump, and I know a lot of it's probably a mental makeup. You kind of get down in your game, and when you're in a hitting slump, it seems that it affects your whole game, whether it's hitting, fielding, just kind of being out there between the lines, playing the game. So, I mean, what type of things can you say to a hitter, or can a hitter do to break them out of that slump?
It depends. The personality, because as a hitting coach, you're really teaching personalities, not so much a swing. And that's why you gotta get to know these guys as good as you can, because you're not, at least for me, I don't do this to take my time with it, so to speak. And these players come to me and they don't want to take the time. Obviously, they want to get out of it as soon as possible. So, understanding the personality of the player, understanding kind of the key words because of your work prior with them, and being able to kind of go to the root of the problem. They're going to be getting advice from other people too, which is fine. But I always make sure that they understand that at the end of the day, you're going to get advice from a whole lot of people. It could be mom, it could be dad, it could be wife, girlfriend, friends, buddies, me, their hitting coach, whoever it is. But at the end of the day, it's up to them. And, our job is to teach them to teach themselves. So therefore, at the end of the day, if they can teach themselves, say, listen, if I'm in a slump, am I even swinging at strikes? I mean, that's number one that you usually go to. What type of pitches are you swinging at? You swinging at the fastball, or you swinging at the changeup in the dirt, as an example, you go to that. But at the end of the day, the player has to be able to take, and the good ones do this. They get themselves back on track. And whether it's me or someone else, just, I guess reassuring them that, that's it. And that usually what gets them back, on themselves. Usually not a swing thing, mechanic wise, but it's just basically what are you swinging at for the most part.
Great. Where do you think your future is headed? Obviously you're about to go on this journey with Team USA, but where do you think you're headed as far as hitting coach in the future? Or are you going to continue doing your kind of your solo work?
Well, I hope that it continues. I've been very, very fortunate just to do what I'm doing now, to be honest. And this opportunity with USA Baseball is, to be honest with you guys, it really hasn't hit me. And I think it'll hit me when we get on that plane. And with our squad and going over and, because sometimes I still think I'm dreaming, because this opportunity is definitely the best gig I've ever had to date. And it might be the best gig I ever have going forward. And, I don't know how to do anything else, guys, to be honest with you. I'm just a hitting guy, and I don't know everything. I never will. So I hope I continue to be in this game so I can continue to learn. And I learned from my guys, and I know I'm going to learn this summer, and going overseas, I'm going to learn some more, and, just hopefully stay around the game and continue to do what I'm doing.
Just so you can kind of let everybody know here that may be listening to this, when does this actual journey you guys have with Team US?
Hold on, Ryan, you cut out a massive amount. Start your question over.
Okay. Hang on. Was it really bad? Is it clear now?
I can hear you crystal clear now.
Okay. All right. Kevin, you said you guys were heading overseas. When does this trip over start? And I guess kind of what do you see for the future of the team?
Well, the journey starts in a few weeks at Tournament of Stars. It's called the Tournament of Stars. It's June 19th down at our National Training Complex in Cary, North Carolina. We invite 144 players from across the country. And they're on different teams, and they play a tournament, obviously. And from that 144, we dwindle it down to 40 players. And we take those 40 players and we select them to our national team trials, which this year is going to be held in the middle of August out in Los Angeles. So they'll come back, those 40 players will come back, and we'll take about a week or so, and we'll go from 40 down to 20. And those 20 are the ones that will take off from LA over to Taichung, Taiwan, to go for gold.
Awesome. I'm not sure how kind of how much you know about these players coming in, but is there a certain player who will be coming into this that you guys are looking forward to seeing, or kind of is a standout player?
I know that some of the guys in the office do know. I personally don't. So for me, that's the exciting part of it, because it's 100 from the last 2 years. There's 144 kids, and they're carefully selected, and but you just don't know. There's always that surprise. There may be a couple front runners that you want to see, and wow, I heard about this guy, and I wonder how he'll do. Because there's no preset roster. I mean, everybody's got an equal chance, and but there's always that one guy that comes down, and that surprises everybody and kind of makes a name for himself too. Because I've seen over the last couple of years that there are guys that maybe are not on the pro radar, so to speak, or college radar, and he has a heck of a TOS and Tournament of Stars, and all of a sudden he gets put on the radar. So the experience for everybody, whether you know him or not, that's why it's heavily scouted. There's all sorts of area scouts and cross-checkers, and it's very well attended by the MLB family.
Great.
Yeah, I know you said there's a couple guys that you kind of had on the radar. Is there a couple names that you can give us that maybe we should be looking forward to in the future here in the next 5 to 10 years?
I can kind of tell you about last year's team because I don't know this year. I don't know this year's team, but there's a guy that I a lot of people have probably heard of him, is Reese McGuire. He's a kid who was on the team last year, and he's a catcher, and he's out he's out on the West Coast, and Reese really intrigued me last year, not only with just his ability to swing the bat and catch and do a bunch of things, but just mentally. You're talking about a 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid that mentally I think is more so like in my opinion at least, 21, 22, 23-year-old, and mature, I think, beyond his years. So that's a kid, Reese McGuire, that you might hear in the next couple of years, depending on how his career pans out.
Great. Kind of getting a little bit off track of what we were talking about, but more into some generalizations. Who, in your opinion, is the best hitter in the major leagues right now?
I would say, it's an easy one. I know I'm not the only one that says it, but Miguel Cabrera. I think Miggy, for years, even when he came up, there's just something about him. I don't try to tell my guys to swing like people. I just don't believe in that. I tell guys to kind of take a look at how guys go about their at-bats, because everybody's swing is different. But, just the way he has an approach, and he's able to hit balls to all fields. He never moves in the box, and it seems like he can get off his swing on anything. If it's on the plate, off the plate, low, high, there's never a sense of urgency or I should say, there's no anxiety with him at the plate, whether it's 2 strikes or whatever. And he just doesn't get off his approach, whether he gets squares up the ball or not. I think he's just great for young guys to look at, just the way he goes about his business. Cause number one, he's a freak of nature, but number two, just the way he goes about his at-bats, I think everybody can learn from.
Great. Something that we do try to do on the show, is get everyone's, World Series picks. Who do you think's coming out of the National League, and who do you think's coming out of American League?
Oh, that's a tough question, guys, because I have a confession to make. For as much as I am in baseball, I don't get a chance to watch too many games because I'm always working with hitters. So I'm either watching their games or I'm kind of hanging out doing something else. But I know for a fact that the Phillies, my hometown team, they're not doing so great. So I know that they're probably, that's a safe pick that they're not going to make it. But, to be honest with you guys, the Yankees are surprised from what I've seen, just with all their injuries. Seattle, I think, is another one that might be dangerous enough if they can keep it up. I don't know if they can, but those are surprises, at least for the little I've watched, to be honest. So sorry I couldn't give you a better answer.
No, that's fine. I think we've agreed, over past podcasts, for those who have listened, the Yankees are kind of on all of our radars as a massive shock.
Yeah. I've been able to watch a couple games, and that's just been amazing to me. Just where they can plug guys in, and I'll tell you what, the joystick's always pointing in the right direction so far.
Absolutely.
While we got you here, since you are a hitting coach, Josh and I kind of had this bet. I don't know if you've been listening to the past episodes of the show or not, but Josh and I have this ongoing bet about who will hit more home runs this year, whether it will be Bryce Harper or Adam Dunn. And I said we've been talking. I think that Bryce Harper will be somewhere upwards of 40, although I said he'll be at 40. And Josh said he thinks that Adam Dunn will hit more. He didn't give a number, but he said that he thinks that Adam Dunn will hit more home runs than Bryce Harper. You being kind of a hitting coach, or you being a hitting coach, who do you think is going to have the better hitting year, Bryce Harper or Adam Dunn?
Well, hitting here as far as home runs or just overall hitting?
Home runs. Home runs is what we talked about.
If it's overall hitting, I would go with Harper because he doesn't have a shift on him. I think because that, studies have shown with Dunn that, without the shift, I mean, even last year he's hitting 250 at least. So I think with me, I would probably go Harper if he stays away from running into walls. But Dunn, I think, is going to get his due. I think it's just he's also adjusting to a new thing at DH. Their hitting coach Jeff Manto is a big mentor of mine, and not being in it like he is, but just kind of from afar. I know adjusting to the DH is one thing, but I think if Dunner hangs around for a little while, it might give Bryce a good run for his money. But I think Bryce might eventually beat him out.
Awesome. Well, huge thanks for taking some time out of your day to talk to us this week.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It was a joy.
Yeah, I mean, it's always great to get people that's the point of the show. I mean, we are fans who probably love the sport a little bit more than the average fan, but I mean, we genuinely do just love the sport, and I mean, it's good to get kind of this side of the view. I mean, of the game. I mean, because just watching the game, this isn't something that we can kind of pick up and pick out.
Well, I can tell you what, I'm just as much of a fan as you guys. I won't say I'm better because it sounds like you guys are really into it. But I think if you're not in this game, especially after you play, if you're on the coaching side of things and you're not into this game, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons in my mind. I mean, I got a passion for it, and and I just hope to stay around the game the rest of my life because I feel like I'm a baseball lifer, and that means I get to learn more. So I think it's a win-win.
Awesome. Well, yeah, again, thanks for coming on, and we're definitely going to probably have you on again in the future here.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Kevin. We just want to, tell you good luck and all the tournaments and everything you guys got going on here this summer.
Well, thanks so much, guys, and make sure to wear that red, white, and blue come August.
We will. Let's move on to our next topic. MLB, as a whole, Bud Selig mainly, wants to start as soon as this coming season, 2014, opening games overseas. Obviously in Japan, we've played a few games there in the past, but including places like Australia, Europe. I don't think the Japan route is a bad option because I think the Japanese audience and viewership is massive, and I think sometimes you could even argue that the Japanese viewership is bigger than some American areas. But I mean, places like Australia and Europe, they don't give a fuck about baseball.
Yeah, I agree, man. It's a stupid thing. I can understand with like you said, was it Japan you were talking about?
Yeah.
I can see starting in Japan, but like you said, Australia, Europe, people don't give a damn about baseball there. It's in Australia, it's rugby and soccer, and then in Europe, it's strictly soccer. I think I can understand Selig trying to make the game more national, but I just don't think going the route of starting the season over there is going to work. I think if they're going to do anything, they should do it during the season and play games over there, or else maybe take a couple teams before the season, before opening weekend and opening day, play them over there, see how it goes, and if that doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But it can't be something that it's got to be thought out better.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Japan's a good route. I think there's a lot of viewership over there, and I mean, baseball's money. As much as we love it, it's this magical sport, and that's why we love it. I mean, in the end, it's a business, and the business is to make money, and there's a huge market in Japan. The Japanese people, I mean, Asia in general, but mainly Japan, love baseball. They love it. I mean, it's huge. I mean, from Matsui to Hideo Nomo back in the day to Ryu now. Obviously, Ryu's from Korea, but I mean, some of our biggest Suzuki, our biggest players come from the Asian markets, and I think that's not a bad route. I don't mind that you start the season there, but I mean, it's like every year when the NFL starts in Europe. The Buccaneers always play in Europe, and they always get their ass kicked in Europe, and it's just like, how do you decide? Does every team play overseas? Which I would be fine with if every team played overseas. But it seems like it's kind of a disadvantage for those teams that have to play overseas and then come back with a day's rest and play over here.
Yeah, I don't think there's a way. Well, there's obviously a way that can do it, but opening day in the United States is such a big thing for baseball fans. It's become a holiday. It is, I guess you could say to baseball fans, it is a holiday, you know? But like I said, the only way I can see it happening is if it's before opening day, before opening week, where they take these teams play and they may be playing maybe an opening series over there. I don't think it can be during opening week because I think you owe it to the fans here to have their teams start here and have every team play here in the United States. But like you said, if they're going to do it in Japan, then fine. But like I said, I don't think, you know, Europeans or Australians could really give two shits about baseball.
Yeah, I mean, we could be wrong about it. Something we want to cover real quick before we go. A lot of pitching news. David Price has been put in the DL. Steven Strasburg had his first 8-inning game of the year. Mariano Rivera is still perfect for the season, hasn't lost a game. He's tied for the most saves as of today in baseball. And against the Tigers the other day, Yu Darvish went 130 pitches, which is kind of really unheard of. Briefly kind of go over your opinions on these four kind of major pitching news.
As far as David Price, I guess maybe that explains a little bit as to why he was struggling this year. It's coming off the Cy Young last year, and I think that's the only thing that can explain it. I mean, if his arm is sore, then his arm is sore, he can't go. I can't remember. I think it was it was a strained muscle or something. They put him on the 15-day DL. But hopefully that will explain his struggles, and once he comes back, maybe he can get things right. As far as Strasburg goes, you know, Strasburg to go 8 innings in a game for the first time, that's pretty huge, both for the organization and for himself. I know I was listening the day after he went to 8 innings, and he said it was kind of a huge moment for him because this is as far as he's gone in a game. And, you know, he needs to know that, number one, that he can do it. The organization needs to know that he can do it. It doesn't tax the bullpen as much. And it was a really great point he made after the game. And he said that he wants to know how he feels. He wants to learn how to pitch into a game. He wants to learn how his body's going to feel and how his body's going to react, recovering from going the 8 innings in a game. And I think if they can get more out of him consistently, then Washington's going to have a pretty big second half. Or, you know, is gonna come on from here because they've been struggling a little bit. They've been playing better as of late. But if they can get more out of Strasburg, then they'll be fine. And as far as Mariano Rivera, I guess this is kind of the big one for me. I think he's got 16 saves on the season. Is that correct? Do you know?
I don't know the number.
It's up there. He's tied for the lead, though.
16 or 15 is the number, though, because my boy Addison Reed is at 14 right now, and he's tied for second. Yeah,
well, I guess the point I'm trying to make is he's perfect right now, and coming from the ACL and what was it? I don't think it was an ACL. It was a broken ankle. Was that right?
I don't know how he was injured.
Well, whatever it was. Well, he came back from the injury all year long, and he's been perfect. And the big thing with me is he said he's retiring after the year. Are the Yankees maybe going to give him another year, or is he going to kind of, you know, is he going to just take this and ride off into the sunset?
Not after his big go away. I mean, every stadium's giving him stuff, and every team's congratulating him and honoring him. I mean, he's done. To say that he's not going to come back in 2 years, I don't know that, but he's done this year or next year, I should say.
Yeah, I don't want to feel like maybe the Yankees are forcing him out, and I'm hoping they're not, and I'm hoping this is kind of his thing. But if it is so, he couldn't be writing more perfect, you know, right off into the sunset story right now.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
What do you think about Mr. Washington down in Texas letting Darvish go for 130 pitches?
Granted it was against Verlander, and I think it was probably more of a statement outing for Darvish than anything. Hopefully it doesn't become a trend, because you saw what happened to Verlander last year, where he threw so many pitches that he just got tired. He couldn't make it. He couldn't finish games out. But 130 pitches this early into the season, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm so indecisive about it. It just, and he only went, 8 innings? He went 8 innings, was that?
8 innings, 130 pitches, because both Verlander and him struggled the first 3 innings.
Yeah, and granted, maybe if he's okay and he felt like he was okay with it, then fine. But 130 pitches this early into the season, I think Washington's got to be careful about that.
I think it could have been a translation issue, but I guess when Darvish was doing his post-game interview, and obviously everything's translated, so it was translated from Washington to him, and now he's translating from him to the media. So all these things could be issues. We don't really know what Darvish is trying to say, but apparently Darvish felt like he was pressured from Washington to continue the game.
And that's not good at all.
Yeah, he was asked in the 7th in kind of a manner, are you okay to continue, sort of thing. And he felt like, maybe not pressure, I don't know that pressure is the word, because he didn't make it come off as a negative thing. He made it seem more like he really wanted to do it.
He did what he had to. He did what he had to, yeah.
I agree. I think 132 pitches or 130 pitches is way too high for a major league pitcher, especially if someone like Yu Darvish's level. I mean, Yu Darvish.
I think right now, if this early in a season, I don't think you want to go more than, I would say 115.
120 is my max mentally. Like when I'm watching the Sox, like no one on the Sox really ever goes that high. PV's a great pitcher for us, but he ends up only going usually right around 100. But Sale usually gets up to that 120 range.
Yeah, Verlander's the same thing here. Verlander's usually over 100, 110 pitches every start.
Yeah, when Sale starts to get around that 115, 120, that's when I'm like, okay, no matter how good he's doing, he's got to go. Like we need it. He's too important to the franchise. Like we can't have him getting hurt this early in his career. We owe him a lot of money. Like blah 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 blah. So
and I remember last week Jason Park said it, when pitchers get fatigued, that's when the greatest chance for injury is.
Yep.
And I think I understand Washington wants to get this win. It's a statement win over Verlander. It was a big thing. It was Darvish versus Verlander that day, but 130 pitches is just pushing it. It really is.
Yeah, it's a little much. I mean, it is what it is. It's over now. He survived. He's not hurt. I mean, Darvish is pitching lights out. Easily the best pitcher in baseball right now. I know I personally pissed off some people on our Facebook page by saying that Darvish was going to blow out Verlander, and I don't think he blew him out in that game. I think they both struggled at first, but Darvish persevered way better than Verlander did.
Darvish definitely outpitched in the second half of the game. I'll agree with that.
And, I mean, it's over. He's healthy. He's safe. I mean, I like Darvish. I do not like Texas. I mean, I don't really have much against Texas, but I'm not a Texas fan. But I like Darvish a lot. I like the way he pitches. He's able to use different speeds and different pitches and different zones. I mean,
the only reason I can go ahead.
He's just such a dominant pitcher, and I know I said it last week, but I mean, he's easily the Cy Young winner in the AL for me. I mean, he's other than even Harvey in the National League, no one's pitching even near the level that Darvish is this year.
No, it's not even close. And I think the one thing that may have saved Darvish was just 130 pitches is he's just not an overpowering pitcher. He can strike you out. He can get you out any number of ways. He can finesse you. He can overpower you. It's just he knows how to pitch, plain and simple. The guy's got stuff. I mean, there's no other better way to pitch it. And maybe just knowing how to pitch a game, he can go a little deeper into games. He can go a little longer. He can raise his pitch count because he does pitch so well.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not to take anything away from Verlander. Verlander had one rough game, but I mean, Verlander is a beast. And I know, like I said, I pissed a lot of people off online with saying that, but...
Well, I mean, Verlander was done in 3, so...
Yeah, I mean, I don't regret saying it at all. I mean, Verlander is a beast, and any team would be happy to have him. But you know what? Plain and simple, Darvish is the best pitcher in baseball. It doesn't matter what you say. Verlander was the best from 2008 till... Not really, probably 2009 to like 2011. He was the best in baseball, hands down. Nobody was better than him. Nobody was even fucking close at that point. But you know what? It's over. He's not that good anymore. He's still phenomenal. He's the best pitcher in Detroit, arguably the best pitcher in the American League Central. I mean, you can't take anything away from him, and I'm not taking that away from him. Obviously, I am not a Tigers fan, so I don't have that love for him like a lot of people in Detroit do, but he's a great pitcher, but sometimes you need to realize that there are better pitchers out there. And you know what? His time has came and gone. That's not to say that he's not good anymore. Babe Ruth had his peak times, and then at the end he wasn't so great. But he was still fucking Babe Ruth. And it's the same for Justin Verlander. Justin Verlander had his time. He's not quite the Justin Verlander of old, but he's still fucking Justin Verlander. And that happened, and it's over. And you know what? Chris Sale's really good right now. Yu Darvish is really good right now. Jared Weaver, when he's healthy, is really good right now. CC Sabathia is really good. Felix Hernandez is really good right now. I mean, that's just the American League.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go as far as to say that Justin Verlander's time has passed. While he may be having a bad year, I think he was kind of due for this. You might have almost seen it coming. I mean, he's had 2 phenomenal years where he's basically been untouchable, and fans, people here in Michigan have kind of gotten the thought, well, it's Justin Verlander, you're going to get a quality start out of him all the time. And whether or not it happens, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, who knows. But I guess I'm not really ready to say that he's, his time has passed. Well, I think that Darvish is the best pitcher this year. I would kind of argue that maybe it's just one of those years where now you just have an influx of really, really good pitchers, and that it could be nothing more than that. But I wouldn't say that Darvish is, number one, the best pitcher in the league right now, because he might be the best pitcher this year. But I mean, there's David Price, there's Strasburg, there's Sabathia, there's Verlander, there's Matt Harvey over in the National League, and Clayton Kershaw. But time will tell. But for now, I think you're definitely correct in your assumption that Verlander is far and away getting outpitched by Darvish. Far and away. It's not even close.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely not.
That's what fans in Detroit need to understand. There's nothing wrong with the fact that there's a better pitcher, because Justin Verlander is still amazing. I mean,
he is. He's amazing, and I mean, he's still the ace of the club, and he's always going to be. But I guess you could say right now that Fister and Anibal Sanchez right now, are both having better years than Verlander is, and it's true. Whether you want to go by numbers or you want to go by the eye test, but Verlander is just not performing that well this year.
Yeah. Now, just give a quick update on our little bet from last week. Ryan and I, if you did not listen, are betting that Bryce Harper not only will not hit 40 home runs this year, but that Adam Dunn will hit more than him. This week, Adam Dunn has been able to kind of close the gap on Bryce Harper, if you would say, because Mr. Harper ran into the fence pretty hard. The current stats are Harper's at 11 home runs and Dunn is at 10 home runs. I don't want to focus so much on that as I do Harper's kind of, I don't know if you want to call it destructive play or play.
Yeah.
Start playing the game smarter.
As much as a Bryce Harper fan I am, and everybody who listens to this knows my love for Bryce Harper, it was such a stupid, dumbass play. I mean, he just like you said, plain and simple. He just needs to tone it down a minute. He goes so hard that this is the second time this week he's run into a fence, and neither time has really come out well for him. I don't know why he did it. He should know better. You think now he would know better. He's been playing all these years, but I mean, when you get on that warning track, you maybe have 2 or 3 steps until that fence is there. He turned around, he saw the fence, and he still broke his face on it.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have very little problem with Harper. I don't think he's as good as everyone thinks he is. I'm more of a Mike Trout fan, but it's silly. He's got to tone it down. I mean,
he really does.
It's okay.
Really does.
It's okay to play like that if it's the World Series, but I mean, 5 weeks into baseball, you can't play like that.
No. While his hitting has been phenomenal this year, his fielding has definitely been a little lackluster, and I don't want to get too much in depth with this, but he goes hard, and maybe that's kind of his thing, is he needs to tone it down. When once he figures out, how to play out there, and maybe not go so hard after every ball, it'll probably make him. It'll get him a little bit more under control. He'll start feeling things out, figuring it out, and hopefully it'll make him better. But I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I laughed my ass off when I saw it. As bad as it looks and as bad as that sounds, it was hilarious because he should know better. And
it was comical till he was seriously hurt.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it definitely was comical. And I mean, our former guest, MLB Memes, have kind of had a heyday with this one, but I mean, there's a lot to make fun of it. I mean, there's millions of ways that they haven't even uncovered at this point, but plain and simple, you can't play. I mean, on one end, as a coach, as a manager, and as a GM, you want an athlete who's going to play that hard every day. But on the other end, dude, you got to cool it down.
Yeah, I think if you're Davey Johnson right now, you have to tell him, hey, we like your tenacity. We like you playing as hard as you can on every play. And while, people love seeing that, fans love seeing that, former players love seeing that, they just giving it all. at a certain point, you need to tone it back and be like, all right, I need to get in control because this is going to end up costing me more than just a few games here and there.
Yeah, I think you're going to see that from the Nationals, too, because they have a lot of money invested in that kid.
Oh, yeah, he's their organization. Outside of Strasburg, there is no bigger face.
But, I mean, they're not paying – I mean, I'm talking money-wise. They're not paying Strasburg the money that they're paying Harper right now. And they got to protect their investment. You can't go running into fences, dude. Like, and it wasn't like he just kind of jogged into that.
No, he hit it hard. Yeah, full speed. And he didn't just hit a wall. He didn't just hit a padded wall, but he hit the graded part of the wall that's out there in Chavez Ravine at Dodger Stadium. He hit the graded part that's in front of the scoreboard. So he hit it, and I mean that's probably how he got cut, is he hit the grate. But like you said, he's got to slow down. He just can't continue on the pace he's at right now.
Absolutely.
Well, that's it for episode 6 of Wood with Handles. We'd like to thank Kevin Wilson for coming on the show today. We'd also like to thank everybody who's submitted questions to us to ask our guests. Definitely keep them coming. It's been good stuff.
You can find us online on Twitter at Wood with Handles or on Facebook.com/Wood with Handles. Please make sure you subscribe and tune in next week. We have a pretty awesome guest. We'll probably reveal that around Thursday or Friday of this week, but it's a pretty unique guest, probably our biggest guest to date.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Josh.
Rest assured, Kyle Rennig Fan Club. Kyle will be back next week, so just sit tight.